Let me say this. Not only was Fox not shocked at what was in there, Fox did not just find this out when they claimed they did. They knew about this. This is all a lie. It's all a lie. I don't know why. I can speculate as to why they're trying to put out fake reasons why they fired Tucker Carlson. But what I'm really shocked about is the lack of skepticism by mainstream reporters. Like, you're not going to go after, like, why are they doing this? Why are they putting out this stuff? All right, maybe to embarrass Tucker Carlson, but they didn't fire him because they were so shocked to find out that's not the way white people Did they ever watch his show? But that's not even that. Well, I'll get into this later. But there's, even in the stories that report this, make it clear that they almost for sure knew that for sure that they found out about that text a long time ago. A long time ago. So this is, I don't buy it.
They were so taken aback it took them this long to act.
Yeah, I just don't buy it. I am super, super skeptical as to why we are getting all of these leaks of Tucker Carlson. I do not believe the story that this is about, Rupert Murdoch going like, oh my God, he's a Christian nationalist, white supremacist. Oh dear.
Croggy.
What? How did this happen? Here is a text that was supposedly Fox just found. I remember this is a week after he's been fired. And they're like, Fox is clearly on a campaign to come up with a reason that is unique to Tucker Carlson as to why they fired Tucker Carlson. This is not a campaign to get their viewers to like okay it, because their viewers know exactly who Tucker Carlson was. That's why they watched him. This is something else. This is a message sent to one of his producers in the hours after Trump supporters stormed the Capitol on January 6th, 2021. It's the next day. It could be actually, 4:18 p.m. UTC. What is UT? I don't even know what the UTC is.
That'll be 12 Eastern time.
Okay, so it is the day after January 6th at 12 Eastern time. Boy, what is UTC?
12:18 Universal Time.
Universal Time.
Oh,
primary
weird.
Time standard by which the world regulates clocks and time.
Like
we don't know who this was, who he was texting to.
We don't know who he was texting at the time.
But it's supposedly a producer, according to the Times. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching video of people fighting on the street in Washington. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid, started pounding the living shit out of him. It was 3 against 1 at least. Jumping a guy like that is dishonorable, obviously. It's not how white men fight. Yet suddenly I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they'd hit him harder, kill him. I really wanted them to hurt the kid. I could taste it. Then somewhere deep in my brain, an alarm went off. This isn't good for me. I'm becoming something I don't want to be. The Antifa creep is a human being. As much as I despise what he says and does, much as I'm sure I'd hate him personally if I knew him, I shouldn't gloat over his suffering. I should be bothered by it. I should remember that somewhere somebody probably loved this kid and would be crushed if he was killed. If I don't care about those things, if I reduce people to their politics, how am I better than he is? Well, of course you've reduced him to his politics, because that's where you get all the assumptions about him just because he's an Antifa person, and you're assessing him based upon the fact that he's on the opposite end of some Proud Boys fists. But the big issue here, of course, is that apparently Fox was really upset about hearing it's not how white men fight. right? You wouldn't do 3-on-1. That's not how white men fight. This is from, I don't know, about 15 years ago. News commentator Tucker Carlson had been on an episode of MSNBC Live. That was when he worked on MSNBC. That aired August 28th. To having assaulted a man who he said bothered him in a Washington, D.C. restroom when he was in high school. Statement came amid discussion of the recent scandal involving Idaho Senator Larry Craig's arrest for lewd conduct in an airport's men room. When host Dan Abrams asked Carlson how Carlson responded to the incident, Carlson said, "I went back with someone I knew and grabbed the guy by the, and grabbed him and hit him against the wall with his head, actually, and then the cops came and arrested him." Now, I don't know if this is true or not, that story he told, but he basically told the story of like two white guys.
Teaming up.
100% sure that the guy that Tucker Carlson got was a white guy.
I'll put my money on,
To go gay bash a guy whom they then subsequently got arrested for being on the wrong end of two guys beating on him. Now, I don't know if I believe that with Tucker Carlson, but at the very least, it's how he imagined white guys to fight at that time. Maybe he's gotten a little bit more racist in that he's developed this notion of how white guys fight. But the idea that this is why Fox News fired him, I'm sorry. The guy said stuff like this on his show on a weekly, if not monthly basis. And on top of which, cue up number 12. If this bothers Fox News, wait till they get a load of this guy.
Of them. The mayor here is complaining about a couple thousand with more resources than any other city in the entire country. That's ridiculous. Now, I saw on the way into work a illegal immigration family digging through the trash looking for recyclables.
How did you know they were illegal?
You can tell.
Okay, done. I mean, you can tell. Now, when they give Jesse Waters the APM slot, which I'd say there's a 50-50 chance, honestly. Are they going to go like, we just found out that Waters is incredibly bigoted?
How down?
Oh no!
How did that happen? You know what they're doing now at that 8 p.m. slot, which is amazing because I've seen like conservatives defend who's the guy, the name of the guy. They've got a black guy who's I don't know
Lawrence Jones.
Lawrence Jones. I guess he's a weekend guy.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with him at all.
Yeah.
And I've seen like right wingers saying like, this is affirmative action. I thought Fox didn't believe about it, like Fox fans, and then other people defending this guy. It's amazing. But what they're doing, just to be clear, is I think this is like an indication to me that they want to put Jesse Waters in there. And I'll tell you why. Because you don't want to put Jesse Waters in after Tucker because it is too on the nose. It is too much like he's supposed to be a different version of Tucker Carlson. So what you do is you put in someone who's completely different from Tucker to completely like get rid of the expectations of the audience at that hour so that there's not a comparison, a direct comparison to someone who is so closely like Tucker. I'm going to bet that's what's going on there. Like they're not putting like a Megyn Kelly in that spot. They're going to put someone in there who they think is, very, very similar to Tucker, but we need a little bit of distance so that similarity, it's not a direct comparison. That's my guess. But the idea that Tucker was fired because of this, impossible. This leads me to believe that they are afraid of some other exposure regarding Tucker, and it may be that Grossberg suit. That's my sense of what's going on there.
Appears that Tucker was lying about never having interacted with Grossberg.
Oh yeah, he claims that he never interacted with her, and she's been producing now. Do we have a? Is that sound clip there?
I'll find
of where Grossberg, what is it that we have from Grossberg?
This was her saying that he tried to broker the speaker race with on air, live on air.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll get to that in a second then. But no, Grossberg, we don't need to do. She's already like released the text. Like it's quite clear that he had direct. And I think that the Fox felt like there was so much exposure there that they fired him as a way to get him as far away as possible from the company. And sort of project like we had no idea what was going on. I mean, here's why I think they're lying about that. In the New York Times article written about this text that it was leaked to, paragraph buried deep in the New York Times article, it remains unclear how the text escaped more notice earlier, given that the Fox legal team was aware of it and other offensive texts written by Mr. Carlson. In other words, these texts came from the legal team collecting all this information to provide for discovery. And before they hand it over to Dominion, they go over it so that they know what they're handing over. Fox's lawyers had produced the text as part of the discovery process and were involved in the redactions. Mr. Carlson had even been asked about it during a deposition, according to several people who have read the unredacted transcripts of his deposition. So Fox is not surprised by this stuff. Maybe they didn't want to fire him going into the Dominion suit. Although, I don't know what it has to do with Dominion. It was not guaranteed that the text would have been revealed in open court. I mean, it could have been by Dominion. They hadn't, the Dominion's lawyers had still not decided whether they would introduce the text in front of the jury, according to people with knowledge of their plans. So in other words, this information would have never come out about Tucker. It's Fox trying to sort of step back from Tucker for some reason that is unclear. Like, who are they kidding? This is their brand. Do they not remember Bill O'Reilly? They never fired Bill O'Reilly because he went up to, what was it? I can't remember the place in Harlem. He went up to a famous...
Sylvia's?
Yes, he went to Sylvia's, and he's like, I was really surprised. I thought it was all going to be mofo this and mofo this and pass me the
MF or I want more iced tea.
Yeah, MF or I want more iced tea. And I was shocked. People were just normal. That's not why they fired Bill O'Reilly. They fired Bill O'Reilly because it was paying out millions of dollars in sexual harassment claims. They don't care about racism at Fox News, other than to say, like, we need to hit our quota of racism or our ratings are going to go down.
And the Democrats are doing it against white people.
I mean, there's something else going on there. I'm surprised at the complete lack of skepticism by the mainstream media about this stuff. They so desperately want Fox to actually be a real news outlet. Honestly, it's
sad.
It's pathological. It's pathological. Here is Tucker Carlson's former producer, Abby Grossberg. She's on with Anderson Cooper. Just to give you a sense, you know, people say this rather glibly, but it's been true for some time now. Fox News is the media wing of the Republican Party. Now, you could make arguments that MSNBC does that to some degree with the Democratic Party, and probably more so now than in the past. But the level of coordination, I can assure you, does not get to this level whatsoever. They may, provide more like Democratic establishment voices on MSNBC, and some of them may be lame in asking them questions. And their politics are probably more simpatico than the left of the party. But the idea that there is like this type of coordination, no. Here is Abby Grossberg talking about Tucker brokering who would be their next speaker.
Persona.
Yeah, I mean, they believed that he could broker who was speaker, House Speaker. He wanted to do that live on air, but Kevin McCarthy said no.
What do you mean he wanted to do that live on air?
His plan was to have Kevin McCarthy come on the show, according to Justin Wells revealed this grand plan to us. Tucker, a few days earlier, had sort of set some terms for McCarthy, which included this church kind of committee that he said about, I think this was about January 5th, so about January 2nd, he said, you should have this church committee. So fast forward to January 5th, they start asking me to book McCarthy on the show that night. I had worked with him a lot when I was at Sunday Morning Futures and had a relationship with his team. That afternoon, Justin came in and he said, here's the plan. Tucker's gonna first have Kevin on, hear him beg and grovel. Then we'll bring in Matt Gaetz, and Matt Gaetz will then kind of set his terms. Then Tucker will set his terms that McCarthy has to agree to.
Tucker Carlson had terms that McCarthy
had terms. And we're going to make this whole thing happen on air and save the Republican Party. Now, fortunately, for McCarthy's sake, he said no. But he did call Tucker the next day from his office with Representative Thomas Massie and had agreed to some of Tucker's terms, according to a text that Tucker had sent me. And he said that was a win.
Prior to working for Carlson, you worked on Maria Bartiromo.
I mean, this reminds me, there was a congressman once, I mean, and it was one of the first ones from Georgia. This was about around 2008. He said something against Rush Limbaugh, and then the next day he had to call in and beg for forgiveness on air. The idea that their party is not just like in coordination with, but is literally led by, first it was Rush Limbaugh. I used to say he is the intellectual, he is the underpinning of the party. Tucker Carlson was really like literally almost like its titular leader. Unbelievable. And this is the problem with the Republican Party. They are run by Fox News viewers, and the Fox News viewer shepherd can dictate to an entire political party, what they should do. And you look at what else is on Fox News. Frat boy saying, I know they were a illegal immigrant. I could tell by looking at them. And the story, of course, is also like crime is rampant. You've got families of people digging through the trash for recyclables. Never mind, like the reaction that a lot of people would have is like, oh my God, we've got to help people if they're having to, like, as a family, dig through the trash for recyclables to make, enough money to eat at 5 cents a bottle. This is what it is.